Sitting there, they're teaching you Torah, they're trying to help you, you want to do what you want, you're like the prodigal son. Remember, you know, these sort of things, when you go back and you look at the Talmud and you look at the history of Israel and Middle Eastern custom, this thing would happen like maybe once every maybe 200 years. And it would shock everybody to the core. You know, how could you do that? That is disgusting. I mean, you could, when it talks about the prodigal son walking up to his father, just give me my inheritance now and let me be. Drop dead, give me my money. That's what he was saying. And that's, you know, that again happens like once every 100 years, if that, maybe 200-300 years. This is something that is so far from them. It's not even funny. For us, it's like, oh yeah.
We saw that on TV last week.
Yeah, because our idea and our society has slipped so much that we have slipped so badly from the ideal. Okay? One who steals a man and has sold him or has found in his hand, he will be put to death. Kidnapping. Death sentence. You're taking someone away from their family, away from wherever, and you're taking them for the intention of selling that person. Selling them to what? For slavery, for bondage, and all the rest of it. Break him. You don't consider anything or anybody else who's going to provide for their family if you take a man. How are you going to destroy their family if you take a child? Yet today, in worldly societies, places like Brazil have got some of the highest kidnapping rates in the world. They fund organizations of ransoms.
Yep.
To the point, you know, we actually had a guy come out and see us, and he was from one of the financial institutions, and he says, you know what, kidnapping insurance is on the increase worldwide, because this is a growing trend. ISIS does this. Okay? And then they sell off people for various different horrific reasons.
Well, they started with Al-Shabaab.
Yeah, it's a serious thing to do. Okay? One who curses his father and his mother shall be put to death. And again, this is not just, you know, your stinky bum head. The curse that he's talking about, Jay, is a lot harsher. It's removing God from them. It's to, again, removing authority, respect, all of that. If, sorry? Yeah. Okay. And if people will quarrel, and a man strikes his neighbor with a stone or with a fist, and he does not die, and he falls to bed. Okay, so basically he's knocked out and he's in La La Land for a couple of days. If he will get up and walk himself outside on his staff, then the one who will be struck will be innocent. Only he shall be compensated for his staying at home, and shall have him healed. Okay? I mean, this is how you have a disagreement with your neighbor. You stick him what for? In South Africa, first apparently in the Middle East, stone is quite popular. You clut him with a brick. He falls over. He can't get out of bed. He's in like semi-coma for 2 weeks. Torah says you need to not only make sure that his family is taken care of, you have to pay for his medical bills, okay? And you have to pay out the wages he would have lost.
Total loss, total compensation.
Because of my quick temper or my little disagreement, instead of dealing with it in the right way, it's going to cost you money. And if the man shall strike his slave, and he's made with a rod, and he dies by his hand, he shall be avenged. Just if he will stand for a day or 2 days, he will not be avenged, because he is his money, he is his possession. So again, if you completely lose the plot and you beat your servant, again, this is not the Torah going, yes, you're allowed to do this. This is the Torah going, in a really bad situation, you will pay, make sure that they're taken care of, you will pay them out. If they rise up and walk around again, it's not murder. If they stay in bed and they die, you're guilty. Can you imagine the bedside prayers? Please wake up, I'm sorry, please wake up.
Except if he lives for a day or two?
Well, that's to say that he was well enough to get up and walk around, so you don't know what was the circumstances for him of his death. It could have been a heart attack, but because you beat him 2 days before.
Okay.
Now you explain. Okay?
I was thinking like No, he dies after 2 days of the beating.
Yeah.
Like he's in bed. Okay.
Yeah, no, if he doesn't have enough power to get up and walk around, if he dies while he's still in bed, then you're accountable, because it was your beating that killed.
Yeah.
And if people will fight and they will strike a pregnant woman, and her children goes out, so it pushes her into labor, or if she loses the baby, there will not be an injury, he shall be penalized according to what the woman's husband will impose on him. And he will give it by the judges. Again, you go to the Sanhedrin. And if there will be an injury, then you shall give a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot, a burn for a burn, a wound for a wound, a hurt for a hurt. Whatever injury, this is not life for a life, as in, okay, let's use a better example. A foot for a foot. You give me, or you hit me, then I'm allowed to hit you. You kill my dog, I go kill your dog. You kidnap my son, I take your son. What scripture is saying, and this is very, very important, people misinterpret the scripture ridiculously, is that this is about measure for measure. If Michael bumps my toe, I'm not allowed to elbow him in the jaw. Okay? You see, there's like cases. If he accidentally bumps my car, I'm not allowed to go burn down his house.
I can go burn a couch.
It's got to be measure for measure. Everything is in accordance with its right state, according to the judges. What is fair and what is right.
Violence can't be repaid with violence.
Yes.
Which is exactly that. I would literally have to take money out of my wallet and say, you know what, Mike, because I slashed your tires, you couldn't go to work. So I not only have to buy you tires, I have to pay you for the wages you lost. And then I have to pay you for the inconvenience.
And for my emotional health.
I was going to say, what about emotional?
It's hitting my pocket more than me going, it'll cost me something to fix it. That's what God's saying. He says, make restitution for what you're doing. Alright? So if you know that these are the sort of penalties that are imposed, how much are you going to think before you react? I'm petrified, guys. You know, many of you know, I did martial arts for 10 years. We were taught in a very survival-orientated notion. Okay? The way our senseis and that were taught that, this is sort of like special forces stuff, you're in a high-level situation where you want to destroy a person. I'm petrified if anybody breaks into the house and you need to use any of that. I'm petrified of owning a firearm, you sit down the aisle and you're sitting there waiting for someone because I might be forced to pull a trigger. Why? Because I have to live with those consequences. I have to know that there are families involved. I have to know that this person is in a very dark place, being stupid, but I also have a responsibility to protect my family. Okay? There are consequences to actions. And you need to be controlled. My sensei always taught there's two reasons to fight. Ego and survival. That's what it boils down to. And time again, you can ask any guy here, if you went to a pub or a club or any time, never mind that, you can play rugby. You sitting there, some oak will stand on some oak's finger, he will look at some oak's girlfriend, you will be sitting there and you will accidentally say, hello. And he's just in one of those moods, you're going to box. And people get damaged. And all of a sudden, these guys are going into the situation where 3 guys are jumping on one guy, and then all of a sudden this oak's rushed to hospital, and he's sitting there with broken ribs and brokenness and all the rest of it, and that man cannot function for the next 3 weeks of his life in pain. He cannot be a father, he cannot be a husband, he cannot be an employee, he cannot be anything because he spilled my beer. It is utterly ridiculous. And if you understand that there are people holding you to a standard that are saying, if you're going to react like that, my boy, trust me, you are going to make sure that this man is well taken care of. And if this happened time and time again, don't think for a second that God's Torah is not going to accumulate something where you're going to sit down and you're going to go, all right, now you're going to pay the price. You have to make restitution. You have to be responsible for your own actions. You have to control yourself because you know this is teaching me consequence. How bad must you feel going through this thing if you accidentally kill somebody? People go to therapy for years and years and years because people run across highways and then they get hit by a car, and this image in their head is so continually there of this person being hit and bleeding on the side of the road, and you trying to figure out how to get hold of the ambulance and coming through and all this thing, and that person is scarred for life because of one stupid decision you made. We need to think of how our actions not only affect ourselves, but they affect the people around. They have to deal with your actions. Okay, this is a heart of Torah. We need to understand this is not just about you, it's about that person as well. Okay? Where am I?
26.
And if the man will strike his slave's eye or his maid's eye and destroy it, he will let him go, liberated for his eye. See, it's not just a life for a life. No, an eye, I'm going to go buy you a new eye. You punch a guy in the eye, you might damage a nerve, he goes blind. Okay? Because of your short temper, you have just lost someone who was there for you. Lost a person in your house. Right? And if he will knock out a slave's tooth or a maid's tooth, he shall let him go and be liberated for his tooth. You see how different the viewpoint is from Egypt's bondage and beating and, well, you know, he dies, you worked him to death. And yeah, if you knock out his tooth, if you mistreat him in any way, he doesn't belong to your house anymore, he goes. You give him freedom, and whatever you promise to pay, you still have to pay.
But this comes back to the beginning when about the slavery. It's not that type of slave where you just carry on.
Absolutely.
And actually come part of your own.
Exactly. Our God holds us to a higher standard. And if an ox will gore a man or a woman and they die, the ox will be stoned and his meat shall not be eaten. The ox's owner is innocent. And if it was a goring ox from the day before yesterday, if it was known to be a vicious animal, and it had been so testified to its owner, and he did not watch it, and it killed a man or woman, the ox will be stoned and its owner will be put to death as well.
Sure.
People raise up these really nice, big, vicious dogs, and they slap them around and they train them to kill, and then they go, oh, who's a bad boy? They raise up pit bulls and Rottweilers and that to act completely contrary to their nature. And then all of a sudden, when someone jumps over, or well, not so, let's not use an intruder. Someone comes into their yard, and before you can say sit, this thing has eaten this person. You are responsible because you made that dog that vicious. Eh? I know I'm being silly, but you know it has to be straight.
It's not funny. I went to this somebody's house. I was thinking to do it. And I went up there and it was quite a lot of water. We talked before. And I tried to stop growling. And then I kind of thought, yo, who's that? The dog jumped up, bit me in the face. And well, I went and sorted it out. But I phoned the guy and said, what's going on there? He said, I'll fix your problem.
Yeah. Well, you are responsible for your animals. And you need to make 100% sure that if it's completely out of character, we can say, all right, we never knew, but that animal is still put to death. They can never do that again. But if you knew about it, if you knew this animal was vicious, if you knew this was a habit of theirs, you were responsible and you will be put to death because you could have prevented someone losing their life.
Oh yeah, it reminds me of when I was a lightie as well. When I was a lightie, maybe 4 years old, went to my cousin's place and their dog took a big chunk out of my left leg. They had to put that dog down because it started attacking their own family after that. So it started with me and then it just took the entire family out.
Okay, this one, it's specifically, you have to take responsibility for animals, and obviously if an ox gores you, it's better, we're not talking about a chihuahua biting your finger. Okay, you still have to rectify the situation. If you know it's vicious, you can put it away, but you're talking about a big strong animal here. If a ransom will be set on him and he shall, well, where am I?
30.
Yeah, 30. Owner shall be put to death. If a ransom will be set on him, then he shall give everything that will be set on him for the redemption of his life. Whether it will go a son or will go a daughter. Sorry, just hang on a second. The ransom will be set for him now. According to, whether it will go a son or go a daughter, according to his judgment shall be done to him. If the ox will go a slave or a maid, he will pay 30 silver shekels. 30 silver shekels. Coincidence? $1 million. To his owner, and the ox will be stoned. You have to redeem, you have to pay back, you have to look after. And if a man will open a pit, or if a man will dig a pit and he will not cover it, and an ox or a donkey will fall in there, the owner of the pit shall pay. And he shall pay back money for its owner. So if you dig a big hole and you forget to cover it up again, and an animal falls in, you have to pay for everything. Yeah, the owner of the pit shall pay, and he shall pay back money to its owner, and the dead one will be his. You just bought yourself a dead donkey. Congratulations. And if a man's ox will strike his neighbor's ox, and if he dies, then he shall sell the live ox and split the money for it. And they shall split the dead one as well. Or if it is known that there was a goring ox from the day before yesterday, its owner did not watch it, he shall pay an ox for an ox, and the dead one shall be his. You see how practical and how to the straight, this is very much practical advice. Okay, not everything is spiritual. This is how you will live. If a man will steal, theft is a nice one. If a man will steal an ox or a sheep and slaughter it or sell it, he shall pay 5 oxen for the ox and 4 for the sheep. Why?
An ox is a beast of burden. Meaning it actually creates an income. Yes, a sheep would also, but yes, hence why Joseph gave Benjamin 5 times more.
Absolutely. Okay, what happens? You use the ox to plow the fields, to plant the seed. If I do not have an ox, I cannot sow, I cannot reap, I cannot plant anything. So you're literally taking up a higher rating. So therefore you have to pay back 5 oxen for the one that you stole. You pay back 5 times the amount. Okay?
For income generating property.
Yeah. If the sun has risen on him and there is blood on him, he shall pay. If he does not have it, then he shall be sold for his theft. You're taking away someone's livelihood here. They could die because they cannot plant. They cannot eat. You didn't care about that. If the theft will be found in his hand from the ox, the donkey, or the sheep alive, he will pay 2. So if before he sells it or he slaughters it, he only has to pay double. If a man will have a field or a vineyard grazed, then he will set or let his beast go and graze in another person's field. He shall pay the beast of he will pay the best of his field for the best of his vineyard. So you can't just let your animals go and graze wherever. That's their food, the people's food. If fire will break out and find thorns and stacked grain or standing grain, or a field is consumed, the one who set the blaze shall pay. If a man shall give his neighbor money or items to watch, and it is stolen from the man's house, if the thief will be found, he shall pay 2. So he's got to pay back double. If the thief shall not be found, then the owner of the house shall be brought near to God, that he has not put out his hand into his neighbor's property. So he needs to go stand before God and make an oath. I had nothing to do with this. And that would settle. You have the Shekinah of God dwelling in this place, and that would settle any misgivings that the neighbor might have towards, you did it. He stands before God, he makes an oath, it absolves him of anything.
But if the Shekinah is not there,
Well, then I think things would have to be seriously investigated, and he would still go before God anyway.
Because there will be curses and blessings.
There will be curses. Okay, to lie before God, you're taking a very, very big risk. Yes?
Can I just say about the animal that the animal is put together? What if the animal has writings and then it box the person and the person gets writings? The person also gets because it's long box.
If they knew about it.
I think if they knew about it, yeah. Because again, the same principle, it's going to cause someone's destruction. Okay? Over every case of an offense, over an ox, over a donkey, over a sheep, over clothing, over every loss about which one will say that this is it, the word of the 2 of them shall come to God. So you need 2 witnesses, at least. The one whom God will implicate shall pay 2 to his neighbor. If the man will give a donkey or an ox or a sheep or any animal to his neighbor to watch, and it dies or is injured or is seized, no one seeing, an oath of Hashem will be between the two of them. And that he has not put out his hand into his neighbor's property, and its owner shall take it. And he shall not pay. And if it will be stolen from him, he shall pay its owner. Guys, before we carry on, I mean, that's what I said to you guys, it's a heavy portion, right? So it's like practical advice, law after law, law after law, law after law. This is not only what, what is to be done in that case. This is what God expects from us. We need to be able to take these instructions, and we need to look at them, and we need to go, all right, listen, if this is the case, what does God expect from me to do for my neighbor? What does God expect me to do about this animal? What does God expect me to do about these things? How am I to sanctify? How am I supposed to judge? How am I supposed to deal with this measure for measure? And even though the person who I'm dealing with might not understand Torah, might not be godly even, I would be able to have to go and say, look, my God requires this from me, and I need to do that. Okay, we can cruise over this portion, and it can just be a whole bunch of listings and rulings and all the rest of it, but remember, the essence is, this is about your life. If you deal well with your neighbors and you take care of your debt and you understand there's consequences to your actions and all the rest of it, things will go well with you. Right? I need to reiterate this because in about 2 minutes time, most of you are going to be asleep and you won't remember half of this mitzvahs. Right? This is a process, this is a process that you need to go over these portions and over and over and over and squeeze out the heart of God so that you can understand how these things are applicable.
Sorry, so I was just thinking, when Moses he did ruling,
Yeah.
and then obviously he is saying that he would be stoned and put to death, but yet he wasn't.
Mm-hmm. He's talking about now, when you're talking about, you've taken this, remember, Moses was more Egyptian than he was Hebrew.
Yeah.
So he was acting like an Egyptian. What God is saying is now, from this point on, this is how my nation is going to shine. Okay? They were acting for themselves how they would act. It was literally like the days of Judges, where every man did according to his own will, except they got told to do and where to work and what to do. This is the ideal situation of if God is king and you are governing everybody's situation accordingly, this is what needs to happen. Moses had to go through a sort of a death because everything he was no more. Because of the consequence, he was running for his life. He lost all of his royalties, he lost all of that, and he literally had to be changed and molded and brought back. Because he tried to save. The thing is, his essence was not, the rabbis will say, he had a real big problem with justice. I think he was more being fed the idea that he was saved for a reason. And that he was prepared and he's going to save the nation of Israel, and he tried to do that by fighting injustice. This man was literally beating another man to death. And he saw an opportunity. Remember, there was no one else around, and this guy was beating. And he came and hit him and he buried him. So we could argue that he actually saved the person's life by taking another person's life. This is in a state where they start talking about these things, where I plot out of hate in my heart, and I react that, and I wait in a dark alley knowing, because this man stole my car, and he ran over my dog, and now I plot his destruction because it's about stuff. You understand the difference? Okay? We have to look at each case individually. It's not that God enjoyed what he did. He literally had to run for his life thereafter. But because he actually saved another person's life by stopping another person coming in. The way he did it, not good. Okay? It's one of those things. Right.
Prince actually says in verse 13, but if he did not lie in wait, but Elohim delivered him into his hands, then I shall appoint for you a place where he is to flee. So it's as if God had already planned all of that to happen.
That's a good point.
God delivered him.
It wasn't premeditated. He saw something happen, he reacted, and then now he's running for his life.
That's nice.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Where am I now? 11. And if it will be stolen from him, and he shall pay its owner. And if it will be torn, he shall bring it as a witness. So he will bring maybe the carcass or what was left and say, look, it was torn by animals, I didn't slaughter it and have a bride. He shall not pay for the torn one. And if a man will ask it of his neighbor, and if he is injured or dies, the owner will not be with it. He shall pay. If its owner is with it, he shall not pay. If it was hired, he was its hire coming from him. And if a man will deceive a virgin who is not betrothed, and he lies with her, he shall espouse her by the bride price to him as a wife. So he sneakily convinces her to make love, and then he kind of thinks, okay, I'm happy now, I'm done. He says, no, no, you will take that one to be your wife. That, you know, how many people would be jumping into bed nowadays and say, yeah, you like it that much, you better buy it, son, because that's what's going to happen.
Famous words of Beyonce. Put a ring on it, eh?
Okay? If her father will refuse to give her to him, he shall weigh out money corresponding to the bride price of virgins. You shall not let, and yeah, kind of random, you shall not let the witch live. Like, yes, bride price, yes, I get this, and then, yes, don't let the witch live. Hey?
But because when I read this portion,
Yeah.
there's a reason why I put it in there. Why? I couldn't figure it out.
Oh.
No.
Yes, there's not one word
I mean-
more and one word
Because it's
less.
bringing up the same.
It was planned. Why was that put in?
What does a witch represent?
Idolatry.
Evil.
Rebellion to what?
Authority.
You commit
Torah.
adultery. You lie with another, and the Father will not redeem. I will not give you into witchery or witchcraft or sorcery or anything like that. I will keep my children for myself. You understand? Your bride, your child. Okay, so it's using the spiritual play on the physical play.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
And this person that entices someone to deceive, to destroy, which is what the sorcery does, says there's obviously a lie. Okay? Now, we could, you know, I'm not going to go into that. Alright. Anyone who lies with an animal shall be put to death. As in fertility cults, as in bestiality, right? One who sacrifices to gods, small g, shall be completely destroyed except to Yahweh alone, Hashem alone. Okay? So if you bring in idols into this place, you will be destroyed because of the same principle. Right? You are bringing in spiritual death. It was, I'm sure I shared this with you guys, it was a guy, a friend of mine, who had a Buddha in his house, and every time some family member went to China or Asia or wherever, came back with one, and then they were collecting all ornamental things, and they just like oriental things, it's a cool thing, and it was a gift, and what, and I was like, you know, dude, this is not kosher. You shouldn't have that. You're a believer, you shouldn't have that. What are you doing with that? And he was just like, oh, but you know, we don't worship it, we don't bow down to it. Yeah, they're actually talking about bowing down. But this comes into the house, and then there's you sitting there, and he's going through this, and I was like, Lord, how do I explain to this man what it is about it? Because I know this is wrong, but how do I put this into words? And he kind of gave me this image of, you know, you're inviting a Jewish person into your home, and you put this big swastika on the back of your wall. And then you go, no, I'm not saying the Holocaust was awesome. I just like the colors. I love the colors. The red and the black and the white, the contrast, it kind of looks like a propeller to me, and I love aeroplanes. To that person, you might as well have taken a knife and stabbed them then and there. This represents death. And that's exactly what these pagan, these idols are. They represent death, spiritual death, deception. How many millions of people are running around clinging to this institution because of these little images and these little idols and these things? Okay? We need to make sure we clear out of these things. And if you come and you bring it in and you actually bow down to it, how much more so? And you shall not persecute an alien, a foreigner, and you shall not oppress them because you were aliens in the land of Egypt. You shall not degrade any widow or any orphan. If you will degrade them, when they will cry out to me, I'll hear their cry, and my anger will flare, and I will listen to this, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives will be widows, and your children will be orphans.
Sure.
Serious stuff.
Yeah. Okay? What happened to Egypt?
I sent those scriptures to my niece down in Katowice.
You know what, he takes a very dim view. You remember, it's God's timing and His plan, and we pray that it never comes down to that, because you know you're talking about people's salvation. But people who cannot stand up for themselves, widows were to be taken care of, orphans were to be taken care of, because the men of the society were doing the trading, the planting, the heavy work. If they didn't do it, you didn't eat. So now all of a sudden you spurn him sitting over there because he's not old enough to trade. How's he going to find food? Because you don't want the problem. God hears their cry. It's the same as, you know, Yeshua were talking about the small children coming and sitting on his lap. Someone who is small in Christ, a new believer, the same principle applies, I believe. Okay? If you put a stumbling block in their way and you stop them from coming to the Master, He's going to hold you accountable. Okay? If you will lend money to my people, to the poor who is with you, you shall not be like the creditor. You shall not be like a creditor to him. You shall not impose interest on him. So if you lend to your brethren, you lend and you say, yes, $50, give me $50 back.
I'm so glad I'm not an accountant right now.
If you shall take your neighbor's clothing as a security, and you shall give it back to him by sunset, because it is his only apparel. It is his clothing for his skin. In what will he sleep? And it will be when he cries out to me that I shall listen, because I am gracious. Okay, when you look, I think it was the book of Amos we did the study on. God, this is one of the things that He said. Oi, you take the poor's cloaks and you lie them down in front of me. You keep them overnight and you use them to kneel down on, to bow down to your idols. Understand, 30 years later, He sent the Syrian army to hold those people accountable.
Why do I need to borrow from the poor?
Lend to the poor.
Lend.
Lend to.
Lend to.
Yeah, says, and if someone said, if you came in and you said, look, I need $50, and then, or $100, but I can only pay you off, you know, 10 rand a week, you would come in and you would drop off a security, a jacket. And then what would end is that at nightfall I would need my jacket to sleep in. I would take my jacket and then every morning I would give it back to you, and then I would go and pay. And then that security is, well, if you don't come and pay me, I'm going to sell your own clothes. Okay, so that's how it works. Right? You shall not blaspheme God, and you shall not curse a chieftain among your people. You shall not delay your fulfillment and your flowing. What does your translation say?
Giving your harvest.
Giving your harvest. You will not delay the fulfillment of your flocks and the overflowing of your granaries. Give your tithes. Listen to me carefully. You give to God. You do not give to man. If you choose to give it to an institution, I want you to go to your framework. This, because God has given me, I take what He has given me and I give it back to Him. And if that's where you are comfortable using that, that's your mentality. Okay? This is not just about giving to a building or giving to an organization. This is about giving back to God. We do not have a temple. You cannot go to the temple and go, here we go, Lord, here is my tithe. Okay, and remember, tithing is broken up into different sections. First fruits, and in certain tithes you give extra to the Levites who don't have fields. And other tithes you give to the widows and the orphan, and you allow them to clean your fields. This is how I believe it works. Okay? You set aside a certain sum of money according to, I use the 10% principle. Okay, 10% of what I earn, money in my hand. Okay? I take that money, I set it aside, and I first look to my surroundings. Who is in my immediate group that I know are going through tough times? How can I help them by taking care of them as a godly man should? And I would go to those, and I would get bank accounts or whatever like that, and you put a transfer, and that's it. It's to God. You don't have to make a big scene about it. You just do it sneaky. And you give it to them because you know you are providing for your brother. You are loving them by taking care of them. And it's an active thing. If there is money left, okay, I seriously sat down and I was praying to God one day and I was just like, how does this thing work? What's the point? He says, what do I need to do with this? He says, expand the kingdom. So I took that and I said, all right, if I need to go to Israel, I need to pay for myself. I do not expect anybody else to pay for me. I set money aside that is holy, that is for God, so that I can expand the kingdom. I can go and I can buy Bibles for people. I can study. I can buy resources. Because I can go, the more I learn, the more I can expand the kingdom. I meet people at their need. But it doesn't help if I go and, Pastor Selina, God forbid, Regan and Rachel are going through hard times and they need bread and go, don't worry, God will provide. And I drive away in my Lamborghini and he's sitting there and he doesn't have a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
I meet him at his need. Many of us have people that are going through hard times. Understand, your extra. And I mean, there's been many persons' testimony here where we go, Vince, because we're kind of backwards here. He says, when I bring you into the promised land, you will take the first fruits and you will give it, right? And whatever's left is yours. We go, we have a salary, and we buy, and we do this, and we run around, and it's like, yes. And then we hear about tithing, and we're like, what? But I only have 10% left. It's been many a testimony that when God puts tithing on your heart, and remember, this is between you and God, when you do tithe, somehow the money seems to last. When you don't tithe, you seem to have a lot less. Okay? And I'm not going to say this is all about prosperity. If you give, He's going to give you 100-fold. I'm going to say, if you give 500 rand, guess what? You're not going to get that 500 rand back, but that's okay. You're giving it to God because He has given you 5,000 rand, and you just want to say thank you. So how do I say thank you to God? He says, look after my people, look after the widow and the orphan, look after these people that are around you that are struggling because they're not as fortunate as what you are. I put you in a job that gave you a beautiful income that you got, that you can take care of all these things. I'm providing through that company who employs you to give you that, to take care of your needs, and you did nothing to deserve it. I did that out of love. So out of love, take a portion of what I've given you and go, Lord, where are we going? Who needs this? And pray about it. And open up your hand. On the ground.
It's quite interesting. We had at one stage a Messianic Jewish guy who used to teach us as a Torah. And he actually got very bitter at one stage because he was going to a church, Christian church, quite a large place. And it was a prosperity church, and they were preaching that if you give 10%, you will get 100%.
Yeah.
Back. And he was very bitter because he was borrowing money and doing all sorts of stuff, and he was giving to this church, and then nothing came back. So he was very agitated. He was cross. He was like,
It's a stumbling block between you and God. It's sometimes God can, and sometimes God will. I remember I think it was the first trip I took to Israel. I took money, I paid for myself, I took people over, and we did this tour thing, and then when I came back, not 2 months later, we received an inheritance that paid me back plus.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that was a nice surprise. It wasn't an expectation.
No, but you didn't do it saying, oh, let's invest this because you're going to get something back.
Yes, this is it's not an investment scheme. It is you giving because God has given. And as soon as we understand that everything you have, every bit of income that you have received, no matter how big, no matter how small, is because God has given you. Okay?
Sorry, about something that if everyone just gave their 10, then a lot of people wouldn't steal because they've had enough to put bread on the table. And then if people were really down and out, I think we'd have a lot less crime. So it's just funny how it actually stabilizes society on a practical level as well.
Yeah, there's no need to go out and steal because the widow and the orphan are taken care of. The
Yeah.
person can go into a place and he goes, look, I'm done and out, can I work for you? That's a very important thing. Don't just, I'm very, very nervous of just handing out money and giving it to people and say, please stand at this robot, I'm going to give you more money every day. I want you to work so that you can earn this money, so it's not just a handout.
But also,
And that is part of that process.
that's in an ideal world where the church is doing its part. Where the church is doing everything it needs to do properly.
God's people in His land with Him, but it's about acknowledging. And He's saying, don't hold back. All right, we can get caught up in this. You mean,
But
well,
just
we'll
want to
come
ask
back to
one
it.
thing about the person asking money at the robot. Do we give or don't we give? I always conflict at that moment. Because I also don't want him to just stand there. On the other side, I also don't want him, he could maybe standing there looking for money to get work.
My concern is I don't know what he's going to do with that money. He might be an alcoholic, he might be a drug addict. If I'm giving him money, I'm helping him kill himself. I'm not going to take part in that. My way of dealing with this is, look, if you want to give him food, go buy a loaf of bread, give him food. Go buy whatever you want to give him and give it to him there. And let him use it. You go, well, you can't really do much with that. It's up to him if he wants to go and sell it. But it's about me providing a need. I would rather give it to an institution like Uncle Ronton. Okay? I know them. I know them well enough to know what they're going to do with the money. I know what they're doing with that money. You have the responsibility to take care of widow and orphan. They are taking care of widow and orphan, and I know that they're godly enough to be able to do the right thing with that money. So I would rather give to them than teach a person to stand on the street. Unless God says, give that person money.
Because that happens sometimes.
If that happens, nothing wrong. Give to that person because you might be dealing with a salvation issue there. Lord, I've heard about you, I've struggled with this my entire life, but I know if you just give me 100 rand, I'll know that you're real. And that's when you get the and then you give that 100 rand, and then for that person, God becomes a reality.
Okay.
And then they will want to go through this process of, well, if you're real, Lord, can I ask you, can you please help me get a job, help me do this. And it might, He will slowly build them up. I think it's in Proverbs, the psalmist that says, I've never seen the righteous forsaken for bread, or forsaken without bread. Okay? God will take care of your daily provision as long as you seek ye first the kingdom and His righteousness. You focus on God, He will take care of it. But we have a responsibility with what He gives us to go, Baruch Hashem, I have a job, I have an income because of you, and I acknowledge that. I do not have carrots and grain and all the rest of it. I will take a portion and I will give it back. Lord, show me when. Okay?
Thank you.
Cool. Alright. You shall not give me the you shall give me the firstborn of your sons. You shall do this to your ox and to your sheep 7 days. 7 days it will be with its mother. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. And you shall be a holy people to me. And you shall not eat meat in the field that is torn. You shall throw it to the dog. Okay?
Isn't that interesting?
Dedication. Alright? On the 8th day we dedicate. That's when we circumcise because the clotting levels are perfectly and all the rest of it, and you are dedicating to God. You're giving them a name. Alright? Why do we give to that? Why do we give our firstborn back to God?
First fruits.
First fruits? What about people?
Israel.
Because of Egypt. Pesach. The firstborn had been redeemed. It was born because of the blood of the lamb. That sheep paid the price so that you would keep your firstborn. So you would go and you would do this, and remember, this was they would actually go. Torah later states that you can redeem your son for a price. So you would pay a price, and then he would belong to you. But you need to acknowledge that God who gave you the firstborn of every of the womb, because I pulled you out of bondage. Okay.
But why is the last verse talking now suddenly about?
We're gonna get there. And you shall be a holy people to me, holy set apart by the way you act and who you belong to. Holiness is not just God dwelling in you and among you. Holiness is how you react. If you make yourself common, you will be common. If you walk in the ways of Torah, you set yourselves apart from the world because you're acting according to what God expects. And you shall not eat meat in the field that is torn. You shall throw it to the dog. Kind of random. Again, this mitzvah that comes out of nowhere, because it talks about dedication, it talks about being holy, and then it talks about eating meat that's kind of been lying there manky for a bit.
And it ties together.
It's unclean.
Because the Bible says God is unclean, so if you used to be holy, you're following God's mitzvah. And you
That's about cleanliness. Okay, remember, the book of Leviticus goes through 3 stages. It goes from unclean, clean, holy. Something that has been lying there, that has been killed in the field, then slaughtered, killed by other animals, now it wasn't killed in the right manner, number one. Alright? It was literally eaten alive. That's what happens. Animals get hold of something, they kill it and they rip it to pieces. Not a nice way to do it. Right? When God tells you to kill something, you're not allowed to strangle it. You're allowed to slit its throat, you're allowed to hang it, you're going to let the blood drain out. There's a whole bunch of things that have to go in. The reason we slit its throat because it's quick and effective. Strangling, not so quick and effective. Okay? And it's cruel. Just as a matter of interest, apparently in the US, the prescribed method in killing pigs is strangulation. So you have an unclean animal killed in an unclean way.
Oh, nice.
Right?
I'm hungry.
And all the stress hormones are released into the
Right. Because this animal, you have no sanctity for this life and you're killing it. Now it's saying, don't go and kill a thing that's been, or go and eat a thing that's been killed in the field. You've heard of maggots before, yes? How long has that thing been there? What bacteria, fungus and all the rest of it, you will not be like that, okay?
You said that we can eat unclean food now.
You can eat whatever you want. Mark's right next to you. You shall not bring a false report. Do not join your hand with a wicked person to be a malevolent witness. You shall not be following many to do bad. And you shall not testify about a dispute to bend the following, or bend following many to bend it. So basically, don't follow the crowd, you've got to speak the truth. You shall not favor a weak person in a dispute. Oh, shame he doesn't have much, so if he stole, it's okay. Okay? He is responsible for his actions. You hold the same standard whether he has too much money or whether he has barely enough money. If it will happen upon an enemy's ox or a donkey straying, you shall bring it back to him. Even if you don't like them, love them by taking care of the animals. If you will see a donkey of someone who hates you sagging underneath his burden, you would hold back from helping him. You shall help him. And that's a really weird way of phrasing it. But if you see this donkey taking too much weight, you need to go and help him. First, you go and help the donkey because it's not the donkey's fault. You and your neighbor disagree. Okay? Help the animal. You are in charge of the animals around you. Number one. Number two, go and help them regardless. You shall not bend the judgment of the poor. Did I read it? You shall not bend. No, again. You shall not bend the judgment of the poor in his dispute. You shall keep far from a word of a lie, and do not kill an innocent and a virtuous person, because I shall not vindicate the wicked. You shall not take a bribe, because bribery will blind those who can see and will undermine the words of the virtuous. No, it's just a little gift. Well, you know, he's really good at giving us money, and if we condemn this man, he's really wealthy, so what's going to happen? The community's going to suffer, and...
It's funny, it talks about the donkey, that you need to help the donkey. He's not your enemy. If you look at Israel, they help Ishmael, which is the wild donkey as well. So they will help him.
It's an interesting analogy. It says he's a wild ass of a man. Right. And you shall not oppress an alien, since you know the alien's soul. You know what they're going through. You know how it is not to belong to a place or be foreign. Because you were aliens in the land of Egypt. 6 years you shall sow your land and gather its produce. In the 7th you shall let it lie fallow and leave it. And the people's indignant will eat, and the poor people will be able to eat of it. What they leave, the animal of the field will eat, and you shall do this for your vineyards to your olives. So in the 7th year we do not plant or sow. The Shemitah is ending now, coming down to Rosh Hashanah. Okay, in Israel many farmers who are being observant have started practicing the sabbatical year again. And now they're letting the animals of the field and people who are poor come in and just pick what they need, not harvesting and storing up. Okay, it's a lovely principle that people can just walk into someone's land and then take what they need to eat to survive. Alright? Also, what's really nice, if the animals take and they eat, nyam, 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 and they plant as they go.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about it. You know, you get fruit trees in your garden and you don't know where they came from. Birds were there. Okay? So God sort of brings this provision and He helps these things grow in a different way. 6 days you shall do the things you do, and on the 7th day you shall cease. So that your ox, your donkey will rest, your maidson and the alien will be refreshed. Everybody around you, Israel, should stop dead. Okay? No work. You teach other people about Shabbat.
What do you do in that year though? Like where you used to be harvesting and
You can still go and pick fruits, but you're not planting and harvesting and watering and preparing the
you're
things.
resting as a person because you're not a slave, remembering you're not a slave. Resting the land.
What is the
resting
principle of
animals.
Shabbat? Resting in what?
In God.
Where did He get this principle from with the manna from heaven? What did He tell you about